Hello and welcome to the Shite. I am Zen and I'm back with another Ielts video. Today we're going to have a look at Ielts writing task 1 for the academic purposes. And in the academic Ielts, well, we have graphs. There are a variety of graphs, we'll have a look at them. So if you can have a look at this one first, this is a line graph. And there are two types of line graphs. Well, you have a single variable line graph and a multiple variable line graph. Why are they called single variable and multiple variable line graphs? Because in the first one that you saw, there was only one variable. Variable is something whose value is changing. So there was only one thing that was changing its value. That's why it was called a single variable line graph. In the second one, there are two lines. So it's a multiple variable line graph. They can be 2, 3, 4, 5. Any number. So that would be a multiple variable line graph. And you can see there is an x-axis and there's a y-axis. And you need to pay attention to both of them because their values would be changing. Okay, the second type is a bar chart. Yeah, a bar. Not a bar that people go to drink. A bar is something like a bar of chocolate. What's your favorite bar of chocolate, by the way? Then you have a bar of soap in your bathroom. And these days people are washing their hands a lot, so a bar of soap is quite useful there. But this is a bar chart. Now in the bar chart, just like in the line graphs, you have a single variable bar chart and you have a multiple variable bar chart. Again, the same reason, because the variables are more than one here. That's why multiple variable bar chart. But there's a third type of bar charts too, and that is a comparison bar chart. Why? Because we're comparing the variables over different times. Then the next type of graphs is a pie chart. It looks like a pie, just like a pizza, right? If we move away from the pie chart, the next thing that you're going to see is a table. A table has rows and columns and it gives you the value of different variables. Okay. Now, these are the four basic types, but we also have some other types of graphs that you're going to see, like this map. Sometimes you also get a plan of an area or an island, for example. And when you're talking about a plan, they usually ask you to compare the plan before the development happened. So it could be, let's say, a plan from 2000 and another one from 2018, and you have to talk about the changes. And then, so this is a plan. After that, sometimes you also get a cycle. So the cycle, like the water cycle, which is pretty popular. Sometimes the cycles are linear, sometimes they are cyclical. So you would get either type. Sometimes you also get flowcharts. And you have to talk about different steps. Where did it start? Where did it finish? Now, these are the basic types. But in every type of the graph that I've talked about, have you noticed one thing? We're always talking about the variable, something that's changing. So when something is changing, how many types of changes can you think of? Come on, give yourself some time to think. How many types of changes can you think of? I personally can think of 3 changes. Which are those? Let's have a look. The value can either go up, the value can go down, or there can be a no change, right? Up, down, no change. And in Ielts writing, it's extremely important that we know these changes really well and we have the vocabulary to talk about these changes. So let's talk about the upward change first. Let's say the price of something was $20. And you were thinking of buying it. After a week, when you go to the market to buy it, the shopkeeper tells you that the price is $200 now for the same thing, which was $20 a week ago. Is that a realistic change? No, this is a dramatic change. This is a huge change, right? This is a sharp change or a steep change. Let's say the price was $20. And when you went to buy it, the price went down to 10. So what has the change been? It's been negative. It's good for you, but what type of change? It's negative, but is it good for you or bad for you? I think it's good for you. The price has halved. Halved. Had it gone from 20 to 40, it would have doubled. So there's so many words that we use for describing the change, and this is what we're going to have a look at. So the first set of words that we're going to have a look at are the words for a positive change. So here you have these words now. We have divided the words into verbs and nouns, because when you are writing, you can either use the word as a verb or as a noun when you're describing the change. Of course, nouns can have adjectives before them, and the verbs can have adverbs after or before them. So we'll have a look at them too, but later on. First, let's have a look at the words for a positive change. The first verb that we have is rise, and the other two forms of the same verb are rose and risen. Now, we can say the price rose by 10%. By 10%. Or the price rose to $40 from $20. Now, you can use it in present tense, you can use it in past, you can use it in future, depending upon the time which is provided in the graph. So you have to pay attention to that. You can use the same word rise as a noun as well, and that would be a rise. For example, there was a rise of $10 in the price of the watch. Now, the second word that we have is increase. A very simple word. The price increased by 15%. You can also use it as a noun. There was an increase of 15% in the price of petrol. The third word that we have is a go-to word for a lot of people. Go. The price went up. The price went down. But because we're talking about a positive change, we would say the price went up by 10%. The price went up by 20%. Or the price went up to $20. Climb. So when you say climb, you can say the number of followers that we have climbed to 100 from 60. Or the value climbed by 20%. Climbed up. All right, then we'll have a look at the next word, that is grow. The number of subscribers grew to 200, to 300, grew to. Or the number of subscribers grew by 50%. And you can use it as a noun as well. There was a growth of 50% in the number of subscribers that we have. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. That's a very easy word, and I'm sure you know this word really well, and that is doubled. The value of the diamond doubled within a year. Doubled 2 times, twice more. So a doubling in the number of subscribers was noticed within a day. All right, same thing, trebled 3 times. And the number of you already know how to use it. The next one is a boom. A boom is a dramatic increase when the numbers just go up. The numbers just shoot. But you cannot use these words like shoot. When you are in the academic writing, you should try to use more academic words. So I wouldn't recommend you using the words like shoot or rocketed. Better stick with more academic words. Surge. Again, there was a surge if it's a noun. The numbers surged to this number. Or there was a surge in the number of people who had bought a specific car. Okay, things that go up come down too at times. So we talked about the positive change, and now we're going to talk about the negative change. The first word that we have is fall. Well, say the value fell by 10%. The value fell to 60 from 100. From to by the change. So if you're talking about the change itself, let's say from 100 to 460, what's the change now? 40? So the value fell by $40. Or you could say the value fell from 100 to 60. Do you know the change now? Great. The next word, or you could also use it as a noun. You could say there was a fall of $40. Okay. Now the next one is decline. Decline. So his popularity declined dramatically over the years. Declined. So a decline was noticed in his popularity over the years. Second one, a noun. The first one, verb. Okay. The next word that we have is decrease. The number of people visiting the parks has decreased in the last 1 week. There was a decrease noticed in the number of people visiting the parks. A decreased. That's a noun. Decreased, verb. So why are we using a verb and a noun? Just to give you a choice, because variety is very important when you are writing an academic writing task 1. Okay. I'll talk about the things that the examiners look for when they're checking, because I've checked thousands of writings. But before we go there, let's have a look at more vocabulary. The next word is dip. Dip. Like when you're having a cup of tea, you can dip your biscuit in it and then it goes up. So how does it go? Let's say this is a plate that imaginary plate. I've got my biscuits in it. So what do? I pick my biscuit from there, goes up, goes down into the cup and up. So dip is when the numbers go down for a short time, but then they recover again. So the numbers dipped in 2000, but recovered in 2001. Or there was a dip in the popularity of Adidas sneakers, but they have recovered. So that's a dip. Dropped, again, is a word that's pretty easy to use. I think you can use it. If you can't, ask me in the comments and I'll teach you how to use that word. The next one, go. Well, we already know this word. So went up for the positive change, went down for the negative change. Okay, so there was a drop of 20% in the prices, or there was a reduction of 20% or 30% in the prices. Okay, right, so went up, went down for negative change. Plummet, again, is a change which is huge when the numbers go from like here to here in no time. They have plummeted. The stock exchange plummeted in no time. Okay, then so there is a plunge or a slump. There was a slump in the stock exchange. You could also say deteriorated. Deteriorated is when the value of something goes down slowly but gradually over the period of time. Like his health deteriorated. It means not like in a single day, maybe in a week or 2 or 3, slowly, gradually it went down. So that's deteriorated. Okay, right. Then there's another word, slump, dive. Dive is another word. Yeah, dive. The next word is dive. How do you dive into your swimming pool? So you get ready and you go down into it. So this is how you go. Okay, so look at this. So when you have this shape, that's a dive. So in a line graph, the numbers can go down like that. So sometimes you nosedive. The other times you dive properly. So you can use the word the numbers dived or the numbers nosedived. Right? Now we'll have a look at some of the words which show no change. So you could say the numbers did not change. The numbers remained stable. The numbers remained stationary. The value maintained its level or remained at the same level, stayed at the same level. remained unchanged. You could also say, well, did not change. So these are some of the words. We also use some specific terms for no change, like plateaued, but plateaued is more like when the value goes up and then remains stable. So you could say the value plateaued at 100 million, but that's when the change is above the starting point. Okay, now we'll have a look at some specific terms that we're going to use when we're writing or describing the graphs. The first one is stood at. The value stood at 100 in 2018. Stood at, it means it was at that place. Stabilized at. It means before this particular point, there was a lot of disturbance, turbulence, and the numbers were going up and down, and now they've stabilized at this particular point. So again, showing a bit of no change. The number of visitors to a specific place peaked in 2011. Peaked. So there was a peak in the number of tourists to this particular place. A peak looks like this, like Mount Everest is the highest peak in the world. But for a peak, you need to have this thing, an incline, then the highest point, and then a decline. So that's a peak. If you don't have this inverted cone, that's not a peak. And there can be multiple peaks, the highest peak, the second peak, the third peak. All right, so a plateau was noticed. A peak was noticed at this particular point. The value peaked at 4,000 in 2018. All right, and reached again. The value has reached 100 from 60, has come up to. Okay, these were some of the words. Now, the most important one that I want to talk about. Now, that's a constant change. And this is here. What do you see? The numbers are going up and down, up and down, up and down. Quite rhythmic, isn't it? All right, I'm not a good singer, but still, that is called a fluctuation. Now, fluctuations can be of two types. Here, a mild one, mild, not much of a change, all right, or wild. Wild is when the change is huge. You see, the difference is mild and wild. Mild, M. Wild, W. It's just the opposite, isn't it? Just to give you a hint. Mild is little. Wild, well, you already know. Okay, these are some of the words that you can use. Now we'll have a look at adjectives and adverbs that we can use to talk about the change. So when I was talking about the change, I told you that the change can be huge, like very extensive. The change can be extensive. Let's say very extensive. Extensive, like still huge, still big. It can be average, 45 degrees, yeah? Or it could be small. So when we're talking about a very extensive change, we use the words like dramatic, because it's not normal, it's extreme. So the first word is dramatic, like huge, unbelievable. Then the next word, if we want to use it with a verb, would say dramatically. The value increased dramatically. There was a dramatic growth. Okay, so we're going to use adjectives with nouns, adverbs with verbs. So you have to know that. Okay. The second word is huge. Again, humongous, quite big. So you use it for a very extensive change. Pretty easy. I'm very sure you can use it. The next one is enormous. Again, a word that you can use for a very extensive change. The next word that we're going to have a look at is tremendous. Tremendous, again, is a word that you would use with a very extensive change. Like the numbers soared tremendously. Okay, now we're going to talk about the extensive change. And the first word that we have there is substantial. Substantial means quite enough. not really little. Substantial. The next one is considerable. Okay, the next word is significant. All three words can be used for extensive change. Then the next word is remarkable. So if you change these words into adverbs, they would be substantially, considerably, significantly, and remarkably. So the value fell remarkably, just like that. Now when we're looking at average change, this is where people have trouble finding a word because they've already used a word like substantial, significant. So what can we use for an average change? The first word that we have is noticeable. You can notice that. It's not minimal, it's more than that, so it's noticeable. The next word, noticeably, if you're using it as an adverb. The next word that we have is marked. A marked change in his behavior was noticed. The next word that we have is moderate. Now, moderate is not huge, not small, but it's not something that is extensive. It's in the middle. So, average, moderate. A moderate growth was noticed in the number of visitors to a website. The number of visitors to a website grew moderately. Then the next word that we're having a look at is the next set of words that we're going to have a look at is when we're talking about a small change. And the first word is slight. There was a slight increase. The numbers increased slightly. The next word is small. A very easy word. I think you can use it yourself. We don't have an adverb for small though. A small change was noticed. A small decline was noticed, but we cannot use small-ly adverb. No, it doesn't exist. So just small. Okay, the last word is minimal. And as an adverb, it would be minimally. Okay, now these are some of the adjectives and adverbs that we can use. So all these adverbs and adjectives that we had a look at were showing the degree of change. Now we're going to talk about the speed of change. So we have a quick change, we have a slow change, and the last one is unpredicted change. So when you're talking about quick, you can use the words like rapid, quick, sharp, steep, swift. I think you know these words. There was a swift change. There was a swift increase. There was a rapid fall. All right. So these are they're talking about the speed at which the change is happening. When something's going down like woof, like that, that's a swift fall. Okay. So you can use these words: rapid, rapidly; swift, swiftly; sharp, sharply. All right. And then steep, steeply. If the change is slow, well, in that case, you can use the words like steady, gradual, or even slow, just like you can see here. All right. And if it's an unexpected change, then you can say sudden, abrupt. I'm going to finish this video abruptly right now. No, I'm not doing that. But thank you very much. You guys have been really patient, and I'm very sure you've learned something new. If there are any questions that you have, please ask me. I'll be more than happy to listen to them. But if you've liked the video, please hit this like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for being with us.